Waku Waku Sonic Patrol Car is a game in which Sonic is a policeman who drives a police car. You must avoid traffic and stop when the stoplight tells you to, up until the point where you face off against Eggman or Robotnik, whatever the fuck you want to call him. It's a very different and pretty weird title. I haven't played it, although from what I've seen of it, it has some sort of charm to it. I really don't know. Sega Sonic Cosmo Fighter Galaxy Patrol, Jesus that's a long ass title, is a vertical space shooter that stars who else but Sonic. I haven't played it, but it looks fun, I guess. Sega Sonic the Hedgehog is an isometric platformer in which you can play as either Sonic, Mighty, or Ray. This is yet another game that I have not played, but I do want to at some point, simply because it looks a hell of fun. It is straight to the point, fast-paced, non-stop action with tons of crazy and wacky set pieces. Definitely looks like my cup of tea. And then there's Sonic the Fighters, a fighting game with a roster consisting of Sonic, of course, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Mighty, and Honey, and many more that comes from. It's a typical fighting game that's not really as complex as some other notable fighting games. Most of the time you can win by basically just mashing buttons. But it is a pretty fun game, and probably even more fun with friends. Also, I know I sound like a bit of a broken record at this point, but the soundtrack is just great. The only Sonic game to have ever came out for the 32X was Knuckles Chaotix. The characters consist of the Chaotix, that being Mighty, Vector, Charming, and Espio, as well as the one and only Knuckles the Echidna. As far as gameplay goes, you can pick two characters as they both hold on to each other that can be manipulated to pull off all sorts of crazy stunts. The environments are cool and colorful, the music's great, and it's a very unique title. However, I haven't really played it, seeing as how I don't have a 32X, and to my knowledge there has never been a re-release, so I can't really say if it's any good or not. The Sega Pico, for those who don't know, was a game system made by Sega that was geared towards young children, with educational games. And being made by Sega, of course the blue little bastard would make an appearance on the console. Two Sonic games were released for the Sega Pico, these being Tails Music Maker and Sonic Game World. Additionally, there's also Sonic Schoolhouse, which was released on Windows. But let's be honest here, who really cares about an educational Sonic game? Well, no one. Although there is something interesting I do want to mention about Sonic Schoolhouse. That being that the model they used for Sonic in Schoolhouse was actually a reused model from a cancelled Sonic game for the Saturn. What was this cancelled game, you may ask? Well, this perfectly segues into our next subject of discussion. With the Sonic series being as big as it was back in the 90s, there were evidently ideas that never saw the light of day. Whether they be rejected or greenlit, but faced with development issues that in the end lead to the title's untimely demise, there are quite a bit of cancelled Sonic games throughout the 90s. The first of the batch is Sega Sonic Bros., a puzzle game that features Sonic and original character number 1 and 2. Remember, do not steal! Not much is really known about this cancelled title. Sonic Edusoft was an educational Sonic game for the Master System. Again, it's an educational Sonic game. No one really would have cared about it, so it really isn't a loss at all. Next up is Sister Sonic. Sister Sonic was, interestingly, actually gonna be an American localization of Pop Fumeo, but rebranded under the Sonic license. When the fans of Pop Fumeo found out about Pop Fumeo being rebranded as a Sonic game when being brought to the US, they were pissed, and so a bunch of angry fan letters were sent towards Sega. Due to all the negative feedback, this project was eventually scrapped in favor of a simple English translation of Pop Fumeo. Sonic Jr. is a cancelled educational game for the Sega Pico that starred a younger version of Sonic. Whatever. Next up is Sonic Crackers.
From the makers of Cracker Ass Crackers.
Sonic Crackers is actually a prototype for Knuckles Chaotix, as it features Sonic and Tails being held together by a ring, which was one of the main gameplay features of Knuckles Chaotix, physics similar to Knuckles Chaotix, and even some level designs that were somewhat implemented into Knuckles Chaotix. It also features an isometric overworld. Next up is Sonic 16, which is actually a game based off of the Saturday morning cartoon series Sonic Sat AM. It was a very different Sonic game, as it featured more slower, stealth-oriented gameplay with some combat elements mixed in. When this was showed off to Yuji Naka, he gave it 2 thumbs down, in which then the project was scrapped. Personally, I thought this looked pretty neat, but it is kind of crazy when you think about the fact that this was going to be a game based off a cartoon that was also based off a video game series. Granted, we would eventually get a Sonic game that's based off of a cartoon series in 2014, but I will not mention its name in fear that my face will melt off like in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Sonic Ride is a Sonic the Hedgehog themed ride that was never released. Not much that I can really say about that. Sonic Saturn was a 3D Sonic game that was in development for, obviously, the Sega Saturn. This did at one point reach a playable state and was shown off to Yuji Naka. But in a similar fate to Sonic 16, Yuji Naka did not approve this game for full development, so it was evidently cancelled. But it wasn't entirely dead, as the engine, as well as many of the game's elements, were to be used in a bonus game for the Sega Saturn version of Sonic 3D Blast. However, due to time constraints, this feature also ended up getting scrapped. And last, but definitely most infamous, of Sonic Extreme. Sonic Extreme was meant to be the first true 3D Sonic game, and would have been released for the Saturn. I'm not going to go into the development history at all, seeing as how complicated it is. That, and there are plenty of videos that document the game's disastrous, tragic, and very depressing development history. One thing that I will mention is that Sonic Extreme's development was so bad that one of the developers, Chris Coffin, almost fucking died while working on this game due to stress and lack of sleep. It's kind of a shame that this game did end up the way it did. I actually kind of like a lot of the ideas that were put into this game. Also, I don't care what anyone says, but I'd really like to see Terra brought back into a newer Sonic title. And now for our last destination, the Sega Saturn. With Sonic Extreme's cancellation, Sega needed an alternative for the holiday of 1996, so we got an enhanced port of Sonic 3D Blast. This port includes better graphics, a new special stage, and an entirely different soundtrack. The soundtrack for the Sega Saturn version of Sonic 3D Blast is pretty good, but I think the Genesis version has a way better soundtrack overall. I haven't played the Saturn version of 3D Blast, so I can't really say anything about its quality. Sonic R is a racing game, but unlike all the other Sonic racing games where vehicles or hoverboards are involved, almost all of the characters run on foot, with the exception of Amy and Eggman. The course design isn't half bad, but the controls are absolutely horrendous and pretty much ruin the game. This actually could have been a decent game if the controls were any better. But one area where the game actually is pretty fantastic at is definitely the music. Holy shit, this soundtrack is just so damn catchy. Despite how shitty Sonic R is, the soundtrack is actually really good. And you can't deny it. Seriously, just give this shit a listen. And now, for the last title we will look at for this video, Sonic Jam. this is where things are about to get interesting. Now, at its very basic form, Sonic Jam is a compilation of the mainstream Sonic titles on Genesis, but it's more than just that, as it also includes official artwork, arcade commercials, a video showing off Sonic Ride, a preview for the Sonic OVA, and even a cool little cartoon titled The Man of the Year. However, this compilation's biggest feature is the addition of a 3D world to explore. This is pretty much the first true 3D Sonic game to ever been released, as well as the only good 3D Sonic game on the Saturn. It's small and limited, but really damn impressive. The most important thing to note, however, is that this would be a sign of things to come, as this was actually a leftover from a Sonic game that was actually being developed for the Saturn, but had to be moved to the Dreamcast. That's right, a prototype for an upcoming 3D Sonic game that was released to the public through a compilation of the Genesis Sonic titles. So, the question remains, what is this 3D Sonic title that we would eventually get for the Dreamcast? Well, let's just say it's a bit of a adventure. Next time, on this retrospective, we will tackle Sonic Adventure for the Dreamcast.
Feel the mania.